not too hard. But for God's chosen people to have the exodus, to get out of Egypt, to get out of the world, this is not so easy. To have the exodus is not only up to you, it is even more up to the environment. Suppose Pharaoh would not agree with it. Suppose the whole entire situation and environment in Egypt would not give any permission to the children of Israel. How could they have an exodus? It's impossible. Today, tens of thousands of the saved Christians, they have only taken Passover. Out of 100 Christians today, it's hard to say, 1 or 2 have had a full exodus, including you, because in your environment, still some persons, some of the things have not been subdued. You all could see to take the Passover was just overnight matter. To have the Exodus, it was a long struggle. We all know the story. It was by 12 negotiations with 10 plagues. Don't think it is so easy for God to save His chosen people out of the usurping hand of Satan and the world. It is so easy. It is not so easy. Many had the Passover, but they still don't have the Exodus.
Ron, following the Lord's severe dealings with Pharaoh with the 10 plagues, Israel had 2 major things in front of them, both pictures of our own experience. First, of course, was the Passover. But then they also needed their exodus. They needed to get out of Egypt. Why was this much more difficult for them to enter into than the Passover?
Consider what's portrayed here. As far as I can recall, there was no opposition from the Egyptians to the mere observance of the Passover. Perhaps the Egyptians thought the Israelites were strange in killing a lamb and sprinkling the blood on the door, as they did on the door lintel and doorpost. Then they went inside and they ate the flesh of the lamb. There seems to be no opposition to this. But with the matter of leaving Egypt, there was tremendous opposition that came through the environment. The reason an exodus is much more difficult than simply experiencing the Passover lamb is that an exodus requires the subduing of the environment. And this word subdue is a critical word. Egypt, the total environment of Egypt, especially Pharaoh with his stubbornness and hard-heartedness, all this needed to be subdued. This takes a lot of power, and it takes a lot of transactions. So before the Exodus could take place, there needed to be the subduing of Pharaoh and the subduing of the environment. Now, relating this to our experience, we realize that if we experientially would be released from the kingdom of Satan, from Satan's tyranny through the world system, there needs to be a very significant subduing of those things and sometimes those persons in our environment who are determined and who are used by the enemy to keep us in bondage and in slavery in the world. So the situation was difficult, but God is resourceful, and God had a way to subdue the whole situation and to accomplish this difficult, actually humanly impossible task of carrying out a marvelous exodus of Israel out of Egypt.
Well, Ron, as we got into the details of the Passover, I think the richness and the fullness of this whole thing became much more vivid and clear. We're going to see in this coming section there are some details attached to the Exodus that also bring out much clarity and much richness. Let's go back to Witness Lee.
for us to be ready